Assalamu alaikum. I hope you are all well and having a good day. Today we will solve a Newton's law of motion question from the year May 2023. This is a really typical question which more or less comes in every session, but this time in 2000 May 2023 this question came in a very different the question was a bit different from the way it every time comes. So let's solve this question and make you guys understand how to approach this type of Newton's law of motion questions, which are really straightforward, but this time it was a bit tricky. So let's solve it together. They have said a student inflates a balloon. So the thing is that the student has inflated a balloon using air. She uses a peg to keep the balloon closed. Okay, so it was a peg which was used in order to seal the balloon so that the air cannot get out of the balloon. She then attaches a straw to the balloon using sticky step. So she attached a straw using a tap with the balloon. She passes a string through the straw and pulls the string tight as shown. So basically what she has done is she has passed a string in between the straw, and she tried to hang this balloon on that string using a straw, and she has also used a seal named a peg on the balloon so that the air cannot get out of the balloon. The student removes the peg and the air leaves the balloon. So when the student removed the peg, the balloon when the student removed the peg, it's obvious that the balloon will start to come out. The air started to come out. So as we all know, according to Newton's third law, balloon force on air from balloon. This is the air that is coming out of the balloon. So when the air is coming out of the balloon, when this peg is removed, there is a force on the air from the balloon. So as we all know, according to Newton's third law, there will be an opposite and equal force acting on the balloon from the air. So by writing these two things, we will get 2 marks, but we have to write another 4, but this question is of 6 marks, so we have to write another 4 points in order to gain a full 6 point. So as the force, the air also exerts a force on the balloon. Force is exerted on the balloon from the air, which is an opposite and equal force acting on the balloon. The balloon will start moving forward because the forward force is greater than all the resistive forces that is acting on the balloon. You can say air resistance or frictional force between the straw and the string, or the straw and the balloon. All those resistive forces are smaller than this forward force which is exerted by the air on the balloon. This is a forward force, right? These are the forward force. This forward force is greater than the resistive force, which are air resistance or friction. So this forward force is greater than the resistive forces, so the balloon will move forward. As the balloon moves forward, it will have an acceleration, because they have said the velocity of the ball increases from 0 to a maximum. So the velocity of the ball is increasing. That means there is an acceleration. And according to Newton's second law, we all know force is equal to mass into acceleration. As the acceleration is increasing, there is a change in force as well. So the force is also increasing. As there is a forward force, we can also think it as another way, that as there is a forward force is greater than the resistive forces, so there is a resultant force. And then that resultant force, as there is a resultant force, there is also an acceleration. So they have also said the velocity of the ball increases from 0 to a maximum. So when the velocity is maximum, when the velocity is maximum, there is no further change in velocity. So when there is no further change in velocity, the acceleration becomes 0, and when the acceleration is 0, the force also becomes 0. So how will this force become 0? The force will only become 0 when the forward force is equal to the resistive forces. At that time, the resultant force will become 0, because we had a resultant force before, because forward force was greater than the resistive force. So another in the next period of the time, the resultant force will become 0, which will make the forward force equal to the resistive force. So for the resistive force to become equal to the forward force, the resistive force must increase and become equal to forward force. At that time, the acceleration will be 0. So let's make a recap and make you guys understand how I understood this. This is the first point, which was force on air from the balloon, and air is exerted from the balloon. So there is a force on air from the balloon, and according to Newton's third law, the air will also exert equal and opposite force on the balloon. So force on balloon from the air. So as there is a force on the balloon, there is a forward force on the balloon from the air. This forward force is greater than the resistive forces. At first, the forward force is greater than the resistive forces. So there is a resultant force, and that resultant force, according to Newton's second law, when there is a resultant force, there is also an acceleration. And we can also make you understand why there is an acceleration by these things as well. The velocity of the ball increases from 0 to maximum. So it is increasing from 0 to something, the velocity is changing. As the velocity is changing, there is an acceleration as well. This is our third and fourth point. And as the velocity is maximum, when the velocity gets into the maximum of its velocity by increasing and increasing, as it is increasing, one time that will increase to its maximum value. When the velocity increases into its maximum velocity, there is no further change in velocity. The velocity will not increase any further. At that time, as there is no change in velocity, as it has reached its maximum velocity, the acceleration will become 0. And when the acceleration is become equal to 0, the resultant force is also 0. From this equation, Newton's second law, the resultant force is also 0. So when the resultant force is 0, there is the forward force and the resistive force becomes equal, because previously there was a resultant force because the forward force was greater than the resistive force. And now as the resultant force becomes 0 due to the velocity reaching its maximum value, when there is no change in velocity, means there is no acceleration and there is no resultant force, the resistive force must increase to become equal to the forward force, so that there is no resultant force left. So we have make you guys understood till now. Let's write it in the way the question paper has asked us to write, in a mark scheme manner, because you have to follow a sequence or a systematic way in order to solve these questions, and not write in your own words. You can write in your own words, but your own words must be similar to the mark scheme as well. So write it. So let's write it right now. This is our point number 1, which will give us 1 mark. And the point number 2 will be according to Newton's. Don't write in this way, I'm just writing it so that you guys can understand and we can reduce the amount of time we take for one math. Just write it in Newton's third law. Okay, so we're done with writing this. To make you guys understand again, the ball exerts a backward force on the air. According to Newton's third law, the air will also exert an opposite forward force on balloon. The forward force on the balloon is greater than the resistive force at first. But when the velocity reaches its maximum value, the acceleration becomes 0. And when the acceleration becomes 0, according to Newton's second law, the resultant force also becomes 0. And when the resultant force becomes 0, this resistive force is no longer smaller than the forward force. Then this resistive force increases and becomes equal to this forward force, so that the resultant force is 0. And when the resistant force is 0, the acceleration is also 0 at maximum speed according to Newton's first law. I hope you guys have understood this math. If you guys have understood, then comment down below if you want any more questions to be solved which you are facing problems in. And we are conducting question paper solving sessions for October 2024 and January 2025 students. We have also solved all the syllabus, so you can also join us in order to solve the whole solve all the recent question papers and complete the syllabus with us before your exam. We are conducting ICU batch, intensive care unit batch, in order to make you guys score high on the exam. Have a good day, guys. Thank you.